So, Josh, we're now at a stage where Phil Spencer has retired. Sarah Bond has been kicked out of Xbox, and Asher Sharman is now appointed the new CEO of Xbox division. What are your thoughts?
I thought you were going to come in with all of your controversial thoughts and opinions.
Well, to be honest, all right, I can go my thoughts. Basically, I think all the talk recently, what's been going on in the industry about AI, you got like Crucial, who suppliers of RAM. They're no longer a RAM company. They're just going to concentrate making RAM for AI, purpose-built for AI. Now that Xbox is basically... I don't know. I don't know what's going on in the background. I don't know if Phil Spencer was like, yeah, well, I'm going to retire. It was pretty obvious that Sarah Bond was being like groomed to become the next Xbox CEO, but it looks like that's just completely, they've done a total 360 and got rid of her, given her the boot, and they've brought someone in who has expertise in AI, and it's kind of strange.
Are you concerned about that?
Well, not really, because I think Xbox is done. Really, I think, in my opinion, it's done.
You think it's too far gone?
I think Xbox is no longer. It's basically they've become a publisher. They're still going to sell consoles, but they've basically become like Sega, where Sega stopped making the Dreamcast and then decided, okay, we're just going to publish games and become a publisher and make games for other systems and not their own. I still think they're going to make game consoles. There'll be one more gaming console that they're going to make, but it's kind of difficult because they've bought a lot of companies, a lot of game publishers, and they've acquired a lot of talent. And I think the aim was that they've got Game Pass and that they can supply the games to Game Pass, and then they can say, okay, give us like how much a month, and you can get these games straight away, day one. But it hasn't really worked out, has it? I think the way they've seen things is like they're not making enough money with Game Pass, so they've decided, okay, we need to sell not only to the PC market, but we also need to sell to Sony, and we need to sell to Nintendo. Yeah, I think it was like, 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, when there were reports saying that Xbox were gonna like have, I think the big one was Starfield was going to come to PlayStation.
Starfield, Forza Horizon.
Yeah.
And Indiana Jones.
Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, Sea of Thieves. I think what it comes down to is it's not that it doesn't matter what their strategy is. Of course it matters what their strategy is. I think the biggest thing, even more important than the strategy, whatever they pick, they need to convince us, the paying public, in one way or another. And they're not going to convince you to buy the next Xbox generation when their external messaging is so confused and changing. It's like, pick a strategy, whatever it is, stick with it. If you make more money selling games to PlayStation, to the PlayStation platform, continue to release to the PlayStation platform. If that's costing you money because people are not buying your console to play those games, then stop putting your exclusives as non-exclusives onto the PlayStation platform. It's like, I'm not a business person, but these are surely they have the data to know whether this is a good idea or not. I know they can't see the future and like look into the crystal ball, but they should know hopefully by now, because like you said, it's been a year or two since these games have started rolling out. They should know whether their consoles sales have fallen through the floor and whether or not Xbox Game Pass and selling those games to the PlayStation platform has made enough of an impact. Because I could see a world where, you don't need an Xbox to play Xbox games, but Xbox has to exist, and whichever one of those scenarios, or if there's a third scenario, like there could be a third scenario out there, but whatever strategy that they want to pick, they need to make sure that they will still be around to make these games.
They need a platform to hub and sell. It's no good just saying, "Oh, this is an Xbox. This is an Xbox." Like gamers are not going to be happy with streaming from a TV or a Fire Stick.
And it's like, I'm not talking. We're not going to talk about this in this episode, but I recently got handheld PC, and it's the ROG, and it's not the Xbox version. It's the previous one, but the Xbox version isn't an Xbox. It can't play Xbox games, and I think that was a mistake. Like that's one of those places where they could have brought out an actual Xbox handheld that could play the same games that your S and the X does, and that's something that the PlayStation Portal can't do. That's it's then in line with like the Switch handheld. And okay, yes, it can't play all the PC games, but you then have all of the Xbox games. You've got all of Game Pass. Like that could have been a good strategy, and could still be a good strategy. That maybe that's the second generation of the Ally Xbox edition. That was the surprising thing that I found when that product came out, where it's like it's labeled Xbox, but it's just a computer with Xbox controller shaped handles. So it's like they've got all of these different things. They've got this hardware product, which is an Xbox, but it's not an Xbox. They've got their game publishing, which are going to Xbox and PC and PlayStation. It's like they've got all these different things. None of it makes any sense. Their marketing is confusing. Like this is an Xbox, that is an Xbox. It's sending a confusing message, which isn't inspiring people to invest in that platform and to go out and buy a Series S or a Series X, because you buy the games for that platform. Who knows what comes out afterwards? You might as well just get the PlayStation, because you can get Forza, you can get all of those exclusives, and you'll play them on the PlayStation 6 when that comes out.
I think at first I didn't get a PlayStation 5, I got an Xbox Series X, and the reason why I got it was the biggest thing that they mentioned when advertising the Series X and the Series S is that it's backwards compatible with most of the previous Xbox generations, Xbox Original, Xbox 360, and Xbox One. So that I was happy with that. The games in which they've brought out in terms of its exclusives as well, it hasn't really been as good as Sony's first-party titles. Like, there isn't like a God of War. There's not an Uncharted. There's not a Last of Us. There's been Halo, but Halo Infinite wasn't very good. But I think that was the last big push to really test the waters and see if they can still hold a platform and have exclusives and develop a fan base. But that kind of just failed completely. I think what they need to do, Xbox, is do something like the Steam Deck, where Xbox is it's part of Microsoft. So Microsoft is they have house Windows. So having Windows and having Xbox, why don't they do it where it's open? It's more open. So like the operating system behind the Xbox brand, where you can have a front end where you have your Microsoft Store. You can download games, but then in the back end, you can access Windows, and in the back end, you can put like emulators and other applications that you like, streaming applications.
Essentially, like Steam Big Picture forward. So using the Xbox branding and actual Xbox games there, but then with the sort of like exit Big Picture open desktop mode of Steam OS. So you get into Windows 11 or whatever it is at the time, and do more traditional.
And you can say like you can stick a mouse and keyboard and it becomes a PC. In that sense, I think if they became more open with the software, then I think a lot of people might be. That's the only way they're going to turn people's heads, is by doing something completely drastic to what the competition is doing, where the competition is quite shut down. It's like you have this marketplace, you can only buy from PlayStation. But if they have that's the thing. What matters to them? Is it the sales from Game Pass and buying from the store? Because ultimately, what I'm suggesting is like having like you can install Steam onto your Xbox, Epic Game Store. So that is kind of like direct competition.
Well, that's sort of going again into a platform that is less streamlined, I guess. So maybe for the Gen 1 version of a handheld, they go more Switch-like, where it is just Xbox games, as opposed to allowing you to run Steam and Epic and GOG, because they need to get like a firm grip on the platform before they let you loose on anything else. Plus, when you say things like running emulation, I don't think Xbox really want to release something branded Xbox. Well, I suppose the LIX can do it, but then you can because the Xbox One emulation is nearly finished, so it's like you've got this Xbox Series 4 or whatever it is, which can play Xbox 360 and Xbox One games not fully legally. So they might be a bit squirmy about that. But from your perspective, obviously that's great.
Well, no, well you can't. Well, I'm not saying like the emulation that's inside Xbox, you won't be able to use for you can't just get a ROM.
So do you mean, when you say emulation, do you mean official emulation of their own previous generation games?
No.
Or do you mean like downloading Xenia?
Yeah, for me that would be something that they could incorporate. But I don't think, like you said, it would be a case of just having Windows as a backend and it becoming fully open. That's the only way I could see them actually turning people's heads and saying, okay, if I can play my Xbox game, I got my Xbox library and I can do all my Xbox stuff, and then on the back end I can, put emulators on there. I can go from different stores as well. I don't have to just have my Xbox as well. I can have my Steam store, my Epic Game Store. It all links in.
I don't think. It feels like we're starting a different episode here. We're talking about rumors of a product that hasn't even been rumored yet. But I mean, I'm thinking if they did bring out their own handheld, I feel like hardware wise and software wise, it's going to be way more like an Xbox, where there's no Windows license to worry about, and there won't be a Windows desktop mode. And I think the reason for that, and their sort of almost their justification for that, would come from the fact that it's going to be priced lower than the Windows handhelds currently are. It would be priced more closer, I would hope, to an Xbox console than a Windows handheld. And that almost justifies not having those features.
Well, I'm not specifically saying handheld, or it could be like anything that they introduce. Like if they do bring out a handheld, fair enough. If they bring out a new console, I'm just saying that the operating system inside either the handheld or the console needs to be more fully open. That's the only way.
I disagree.
Really?
Because I just yes.
So, but that will be literally what we have now.
That's not a console though. That's them just saying it's a PC.
Exactly, but that's what they need to do. They need to open it up and say to people, it's not just a console anymore. You can do these things as well. You're getting value for money.
But that defeats the object of having a console at that point. Just buy a lower end gaming PC. Like that. From my point earlier on, it just further confuses what the device is meant to be for and how you're supposed to use it.
Well, a lot of people, the argument to that is a lot of people don't know how to build their own PCs, and they're a bit wary about buying pre-built, and they don't understand. They would just say, okay, that's an Xbox, just get that off the shelf, it works. They could still use it as an Xbox, everyday Xbox. You don't have to go into the back end. Like in the Steam Deck has the front end. You'd never ever have to access the back end and play around with.
I feel like adding a back end to a PlayStation, to an Xbox, is like the PlayStation 2 having a hard drive slot. About 7 people in the world used it because no one actually needed it. It's not a feature that is going to bring any value to the platform, and all it's going to do is cost time and money, and cost money to develop in the first instance, and then just cost money in the actual system when you go to buy. It's going to add like 20 or 30 pounds or dollars to the final price. I don't think anyone who wants a gaming console to be simple to use wants there to be anything like what you're suggesting. That it brings complexity that consoles don't have. And if you want that complexity to run emulators or anything other than the Xbox platform, then you know what you're doing. If you're buying one of the GPD little flippy handhelds for emulation, if you're buying a pre-built, they're not Like, I bought 2 pre-built systems. It's not difficult. You just say, here's my budget. What can I get for the budget? And you go to one of these websites, and they'll just send it to you pre-made. It's not like you're making it sound way more difficult than it actually
Well,
is.
like I don't know. Like, you think about it though. Like, say a 12-year-old is like, I want to play games, and then there's like a mum is like, I don't really understand what a pre-built says, okay, you can get an RTX with RAM. They're gonna be like, I don't understand what that is, but I see an Xbox. Oh, I've heard of Xbox or a PlayStation. They're more likely to buy that than over a pre-built gaming PC.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there you go.
I just don't see how you tracked those 2 completely independent things. I just don't see. I think you are so into emulation and, let's say, found media, that the thought of having a device without being able to do that just seems alien. Whereas for most people, that just isn't true. Most people will either be able to find their own media for their gaming PC and be able to say, Mum, I need this computer to be X, Y, and Z, or they'll just have a console and they'll be fine with it. Like, I was a 12-year-old once. I had no problems getting... I'm not saying I had no problems getting computers. I had no money, neither did my parents, really. But we had computers and gaming consoles, and they were just used for how they were used. Like, I remember getting GTA Vice City and on the PC, and then downloading what are those programs that give you like God mode and everything, like trainers. Is that yeah, like downloading trainers to run alongside it. Actually, I even remember on my Windows Millennium computer, which was not a gaming computer at all, I used to play the snot out of Midtown Madness 2. And that was like my first experience of like modding games, because you'd go to like this website and you could download all these different car models, and I think they even had some maps, but they didn't run very well on my computer because it was like 700 megahertz CPU. And like, I could do that as like an 11-year-old. Like, I think you're not giving people of any age enough credit that if they want to tinker with games and computers, to be able to buy a computer that's capable of it. But for people who want the simplicity of playing games normally on a console, we'll just get the console without worrying about the back end. This is also going into, like, we've got this vague episode planned to talk about the handhelds that you've got and that I've got. And there's a similar conversation here that's going to fit exactly in there. So it's like, I don't think any Xbox that plays Xbox games properly, I don't think any of them need back-end Windows to run emulators. Okay, other than something in the same vein as Nintendo Switch being able to run those games through the, you know what I mean, that virtual thing that they had on the Switch or the Wii, where you could play Game Boy games and NES, SNES games, that sort of thing. The official emulated stuff. That's what I would hope that Xbox would have. Nothing that you could then run Xenia in the background.
Okay, then forget the back end stuff. What if in the front end they said, okay, you can also link your Steam account, your Epic Games Store, your EA account store to your...
Well, they will do EA because they already do that.
Oh, do they?
Yes, you basically, if they already do something like that with all of the publishers, because if you want to play The Sims on the Xbox, I think you have to sign in with your EA account, and also with Game Pass, you can add on EA's gaming subscription.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So they already do something like that, but I think they're only going to do it for publishers where they have to, not just to allow you to use alternative marketplaces. So the money still goes through the Xbox store, not through Steam, unless if Steam put Half-Life Alyx on there, then perhaps there will be a system to link up to your Steam account just for that game or for any other Steam game, but not to buy GTA 5 through Steam instead of the Xbox.
Yeah, I understand. But I think for me, that's where it's going wrong. I don't think they're not going to get anyone because the problem is as well. The way things are going with RAM prices, the PlayStation 6 and the next Xbox, either if it's a handheld or it's like a console, it's going to cost a lot of money. PlayStation 5 Pro, what was that, like £700? And that was without a disc drive. And to have a disc drive with it was £100. So I reckon, if things are going the way they are, you're talking at least PlayStation 6. You're talking probably like £800 maybe. And if you got, who's got so if you got a PlayStation 6 that's £800 and an Xbox console that's £800 or roughly the same kind of price, which one are you going to pick? If it does exactly the same as the PlayStation console and you also porting all of your games to the PlayStation console as well as putting it on the Xbox, the only thing you've got is Game Pass, and PlayStation have already got a subscription as well, which does very similar games. Which one are you going to choose? Your next generation, you're only going to buy one console. You're not going to, and you would have to say, like, a lot of people I think will look at the price and be like, I'll just stick to the PS5. You have to be super rich to be able to buy two consoles. I could see a lot of people buying like a PlayStation 6 and then maybe like later down the line picking up a Nintendo Switch 2 as because that's the cheaper option. And
it's an entirely different sort of, they don't compete really.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Nintendo has the reason why Nintendo are doing so well is because they have their exclusives and they have their way of doing things. It's unique. Xbox has no brand. They had Halo, they had Gears, but that's all going to be coming to PlayStation. What is the reason to pick up an Xbox? And that's what I'm trying to say. If they did something completely wild and just said, okay, we're opening it up, you can do anything you want in it. It's a Windows machine. You can put different stores on it. You can put emulation. You can put...
But what are they selling at that point?
Well, yeah, like you say, that it'll be a pre-built PC.
because like the Windows license is going to Microsoft, not to Xbox. I don't see how that's a moneymaker for Xbox. I think
But what can they do then? What can they do?
But the hardware is supposed to be a loss leader. Like, you sell the console for whatever it costs. Like if it costs $500 to make, sell it for $500, and then you make the money on the games. And you only make the money on the games if you sell those games. So they need to own the store on the Xbox. They can't have anyone else selling games on their platform. And if you have any other way of playing games on their platform that they don't control, then they're just going to be selling you a device with no profit margin for you to play your games cheaply. And that's good for you, but it's not good for them. It's not going to make them any more money. So they either, if they're going to do that, what you're talking about, they need to sell the product with a healthy profit margin. But that's not what consoles are supposed to be. Consoles are supposed to be cheap hardware to get you in the door. Let's ignore the fact that they're no longer cheap, and like the PS5 Pro is something like £600 to £700 at the moment, and that's like you say, before the AI RAM prices are going to push that up. I mean, it already kind of is there. I think they're talking about. I saw something last week about the PS5 and what they're going to do with the. Are they going to bring the SSD storage size down again or something like that? So it's not. It's only going to get worse. And I remember buying the Xbox 360 for like £200 with a game all those years ago. So we're way past those days. But we don't want consoles to be priced compared to PCs, really.
Well, that unfortunately that's the way it's heading. It's just going to be like the price. The thing is, the argument is you pay that kind of money for a smartphone. So what's the difference between paying that money and then picking up a game console? But if you're going to do it, you're only going to be picking up one of the two big consoles, either a PlayStation or an Xbox. And you're most likely going to pick up a PlayStation because PlayStation have all the exclusives. They have good exclusives. I'm not saying that's the thing. We're making out that Xbox port everything. they're porting all their games to PlayStation. PlayStation also have been porting games. They've been testing the.
Well, this is the difference. So, and I thought about bringing this up. So, Xbox games for the longest time have been available on Xbox and PC, and that was the golden age where you go to the Xbox store, you buy Forza Horizon 4, and you can play it on the Xbox, or you can play it on your PC, your Windows PC, using the same purchase, or using Game Pass, and that was so good. That was just the best of times. And that didn't really feel like the exclusives were cannibalizing each other's sales, because Xbox and Windows does kind of feel like the same sort of thing. PlayStation have started to put some of their exclusives on a PC, which feels a little bit strange because it's not quite the same. Like, they don't own Windows, so there's like a little bit of market share they're kind of losing, but they are capturing some sales. I mean, I bought Horizon Forbidden West on the PC. I think that's it, actually, because all of the other exclusives that they put out, we actually already have on the PlayStation. So they are capturing some sales, but compared to their own PlayStation user base, like I wonder if that's even hitting 10% of their sales for those games. Probably not. But the fact that Xbox are now expanding beyond the PC and now onto the PlayStation, so like Xbox games you can get on 3 platforms now. You get them on the Xbox, you get them on Windows PCs, and now you can get them on PlayStation
and Switch.
And Switch. What have they sent to the Switch? All the games I've heard about on the Switch I thought were non-Xbox exclusive, like Cyberpunk and Red Dead Redemption. Indiana Jones, maybe?
Yeah, that's coming to Switch, isn't it? That's coming this year, isn't it? And they are going to be making. I know it's technically a Call of Duty, I think, as well, will be coming to the Switch. There must be more. Probably like Minecraft.
That's already on the Switch. So Minecraft isn't part of Xbox, though, is it? They are their own company.
Yeah, technically, yeah. I'm just trying to think of games that are owned by Microsoft, though. But yeah, I see your point. But yeah, if they could put it on the Switch, they would, as well. They're not, they've completely, they understand that. And this is the thing, right? Making games, it's not cheap. And if you can squeeze out another profit by just porting the game to another game console, it brings in another revenue stream. So I understand the, why they're doing it. But
well, I wonder. So talking about like the cost of putting a game onto 30% will go to Xbox or PlayStation if you or I put out a game. Do Microsoft-owned publishers pay that 30% to Xbox? Or is that sort of just swept away because they're owned by Xbox already? Perhaps they need less money in the first instance. I don't know. It's interesting that I've got the sales graph in front of me, and the market for a game to be on Xbox is so low compared to the users on PlayStation. It's not quite a third, but nowhere near half. It's like 35,000. Oh, sorry, 35 million compared to 85 million. So being able to put your game only on Xbox must be killing those publishers' profits and losses, their revenue, because there's not enough buyers on the Xbox platform, and there's so many people they're missing on the PlayStation. So when you compare 35 million just Xbox to 110 million combined potential people that they could be selling a game to, it's like, why would you not put it on both platforms? And that's not a bad thing. It's just that if this is where Xbox is going, they need to own it. They need to maybe have another reason for you to stick with the Xbox console.
That's the problem. There isn't, though. I think...
No, there isn't.
I think we'll find out next generation. We'll see the PlayStation will just carry on. Like PlayStation, Sony, they haven't really done a good job this generation in terms of the games that they've put out. And it's just been kind of like, meh, let's just remaster this, remake. There's not really any.
Just because you don't like the games. I mean, God of War and the Horizon series have been really
Yeah,
good.
no, of course. There's been a few good games, but I wouldn't say that there's been standout like every year. There's a AAA top seller game, but I understand like these games cost millions and millions and millions to make, and it takes a lot of resources as well. Like it takes years to make. So I'm not, we're not kind of stupid, but I think if they had a bit more competition from Xbox, it doesn't seem like Xbox are competing there's no competition now with Sony. They've completely thrown in the towel. Nintendo have always done their own thing. The last time they kind of competed with the big other two was probably back in the GameCube, and then they introduced the Wii, and it was just like, okay, we're gonna do our motion control thing, the family console. But yeah, I just think there's no reason. The reason for me, like I said, was why I picked up an Xbox Series X is that I can play all my backwards compatible games. The library that I've got a console that just does that now. I don't need to. If they bring out another console that's got better graphics, it's quicker, faster, I don't really need that. I've got what I need.
But you said this before the Xbox Series X came out.
No,
You said the exact same thing about your last generation console. You did, and it all comes down to the compatibility of each generation. Because, like we've said before, not all generations have all previous generations compatibility. It chops and changes. So, like PlayStation has some weird stuff. Nintendo can play, the Wii can play GameCube, but the Wii U maybe can't. That kind of thing. So maybe there will be something that draws you into the next generation that the current one can't.
How can it? Like my whole thing is about playing the Xbox family of games. Okay, so that was the Xbox original, Xbox 360, and Xbox One, and they've pretty much come out and said, okay, we're not going to be doing any more backwards compatibility. That's it. So the games that we got, that's that. There's nothing that a new console that's going to bring any, like, it's just going to be like, okay, this console plays games just like the PlayStation does. It might do it slightly better. That's one thing they might have. They might have a better GPU, or it might be has a better processor, but I would expect them to be quite similar in spec. So I wouldn't. The last two generations, this generation, the consoles have been like it seems like there's an advantage from PS5 over Xbox Series X. But it's only like 2 or 3 frames, But
one thing though is that the consoles need to keep up their performance with whatever TVs we're running them on. So as TVs went from 720p to 1080, from 1080 to 4K, 30 frames to 60, including HDR, all these things, we don't like. I think we think that 8K isn't going to be the next thing for TVs. I think 4K is about where we want to sit resolution wise, but there's going to be other things like I suppose the next thing could be
stop using FrameGen and use native 4K in games at 120. That would be ray tracing.
There's always reasons to get better performing CPUs, GPUs, hardware ray tracing. I'm even thinking about some kind of like hardware. Like, could you imagine if there was some like hardware HDR backlight thing that game consoles could do? Like when TVs get their instead of having backlights that do like a 10 by 10 on a TV, it's basically almost 4K backlights, and having that, I'm trying to come up with future TV technologies that the next series of Xbox and PlayStation will have to try and match, and we don't know what those are yet. Hopefully there will be something. Every time we think we're at the pinnacle of technology, something new comes in. It might flop like 3D did. It succeeds like HDR is currently doing. So there will be a reason to buy the PS6. There will be a reason to buy the Xbox Triple, I think, as I coined it all those years ago.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think there will be. I think the only person that will buy the next Xbox will be diehard Xbox fans that are just like Yeah, they're like, yeah, Xbox. Oh, for me, if I like, I'm pretty sure if I had the cash and I had a choice between a PlayStation 6 and an Xbox, I would 100% take the PS6. And I can't see anyone like the only reason I could see someone picking up an Xbox is that they have the game library and it's like, okay, you can play the games again backwards compatible.
Game library is a huge one, but we need to revisit this in like 6 months to a year to see. Like, we're talking about the current situation, like what is currently going on with Xbox and Microsoft.
Well, nothing. No, nothing.
Come back
nothing.
in 6 months to a year's time. See what they
nothing
do.
is happening.
See what happens with the RAM crisis, because that's going to affect things horrifically.
What Xbox are doing right now is just closing game studios.
Well, of course they are, but that's because leadership has been doing silly things, really. Like, why buy them just to close them? They obviously had grand ideas, which never came to fruition, but now they've got new leadership.
What was that?
Can they commit themselves to doing something useful?
It was. Did you see? It was like 2 years ago. They had. They were showing off Perfect Dark, like the remake. They made like a remake of that, and they had like a demo shown off at E3, and it looked quite good. And then, like, was it a few months after that? They said, "Okay, no, that we've cancelled that." And you're just like, "What? You've cancelled it?" Like, it's like and then there was a game before that. It had gameplay, looked good, and they cancelled it. And you're like, what? Why have you done this? Like, and then
I imagine the pandemic and everything that happened there financially scared a lot of things. I don't know how many of these purchases they did before the pandemic or after or even during. Then there was a whole scandal at Activision Blizzard. Was that shortly after Microsoft had bought them, I think? It's not that there hasn't been plenty of drama, let's put it, around the publishers that Xbox ended up buying. And some of it may not all be under any of Microsoft's influence. It might have all been stuff that was already going on, and obviously the global crisis and other things going on. But everything that they have done with those publishers hasn't inspired confidence. It's just eroded players' confidence in Xbox, in anything that they're going to do. I've seen some tweets, some posts on X that Asher has posted or replied. It looks like she's listening to the community, but actions speak louder than words, really. Like, you can say everything. Like, she's saying good things. Doesn't matter what you say, all that matters is what you put out. If you close game developers, if you close publishers, if you put out rubbish games, then you aren't going to recover. If you say you're not going to make games with AI slop, and you make games that are good, I'm not saying don't use AI. There are some great uses for AI in the productivity stack of making any kind of project. So I'm not saying like zero AI, and maybe that's what she's coming in. And she's like, look, guys, I'm in charge of AI previously. I know how to use AI in a positive way. Let's do that. But let's do none of this. Let's do none of the awful stuff, like that GTA clone that came out a little while ago. That was just awful. Or that GTA remake done by Grove Street Studios with AI upscaling. But, we need to wait and see what they do to really judge the new leadership. The problem with that is that the longer it takes them to do anything, the less confident everyone is going to be. Everyone's going to stop buying their consoles. Their sales have already plateaued. You have to feel sorry for her a little bit, because she's probably stuck between a rock and a hard place with what to do with Xbox. But it kind of is their fault in the end.
Wow. Yeah, I think that became quite evident in like 2 years ago when it was just like panic stations. And there was all these rumors going around about, Xbox is going ported to here, Xbox is doing this, Xbox is doing that. And there's so much confusion going on, and it kind of hasn't really recovered, has it? It's not. I don't think they're not going to change anything. They're just going to keep it as it is, and it's just they're going to bring out a box. It's going to be way overpriced. No one's going to buy it. There won't be anything that will be different to the competition. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I can't... if I was in a shop and someone said, "Oh, should I get a PlayStation or should I get an Xbox?" Just pick up a PlayStation, in my opinion. Like, it's just a dead console. I think it was dead. Like, the Xbox Series X, it is a good console. Like, if you actually use one, it's but I just wouldn't recommend it because there's so many games, exclusive games that are on the Sony platform that you won't be able to play, and Xbox in terms of exclusives haven't delivered.
One thing I think that might be to its detriment, especially since the Xbox One, the platform has remained the same. So, like, yes, there was a design language, a UI theme that from the 360 went through to the One, and then from the One to the Series. But the experience of playing or doing anything on the Xbox One versus the Series consoles is virtually identical. Like, I don't know that I could rattle off the features of the Xbox Series other than graphical processing power. Now, I did re-listen to our first podcast episode yesterday, and I remember I remember Xbox talking about they had some kind of audio engine. No idea what became of that. But like the PlayStation, the features are haptic triggers. Does the Xbox have that? So it's got haptic force control triggers. It's got a speaker in the controller, which is arguable as to whether that's good or not. It's got the trackpad on top, which has some really useful gameplay elements for, like, in Horizon, for instance, the HUD can be completely hidden. If you want to pull up your compass or anything like that, you can just swipe on the trackpad and that kind of like brings up that information, but then it goes away, so it's out, you're more immersed. So that's like genuine uses for it, and it just looks cool. I know that the looks of the console is polarizing, but it looks interesting compared to the Xbox, which is literally just a box.
Well, so I would say the main difference between the Xbox One and the Xbox Series X is, like you said, it's power and performance with the SSD. It has one great feature where, I don't know if PlayStation does this, but you can basically you can stop a game, just turn off the console, you turn it back on, like a week later, it could be a month later, it can quick resume the game, and it just goes
as long as it doesn't lose power and it remains in standby, I think it will quick resume. And depending on the game, it can do a semi quick resume. This is actually a good one. So Forza on the PC, every time I played Forza 4, I had to load the game from scratch, and it would start at one of the player houses, and I would have to go to where I wanted to go. But it is interesting you're saying that's not a Series feature, a Series X feature, because that exists on the Xbox One. Because when I played the same game on our Xbox One, it loaded me where I was when I quit the game. And the problem is, I quite often exit the game when I'm too far to be bothered to travel back to anywhere civil. So I could be like on the farthest, like I think in like Forza 5, Horizon 5, there's a mountain. So I might like drive to the top of the mountain. I'm like, okay, I'm bored now. I'm done. I can't be bothered to drive down the mountain. I'll just quit the game. The next time I load up the game, I'm at the top of the mountain and I'm still going to drive down the mountain. Whereas on the PC version, I don't get that quick resume. But we only have an Xbox One, and I've experienced that quick resume on the Xbox One. So it's not a Series feature.
Does it load at all? So when you like quit,
it might load. I think it depends on if it's in standby or fully off.
Because on the Series X, it just goes straight in. Like you click it, boom, you're back in where you left off. Like,
other than the fact it's a hard drive, not an SSD, I think it loads almost straight in.
Well, you might have to test that. But
I'm not dragging the Xbox One out from under the bed. It's been there for like two. It's been there. It hasn't been plugged in since we moved onto the boat. So it's like 2022. Is that right?
I think so. Yeah.
What year is it? Yeah,
that's a long time.
Yeah, 4 years.